I'm Mark Peikert from Backstage magazine, and joining me tonight is Laverne Cox from Orange is the New Black, the Emmy-nominated star of Orange is the New Black.
Hi. Hello, everyone. You look so good tonight. I can't believe it's not a packed house. I'm very disappointed. But the folks who are here look amazing. How you doing? Hi.
So you just watched the episode for which Laverne was nominated for an Emmy just this past month. Making history by being nominated, by the way. This has kind of been a history-making year for you.
Yeah. I'm sorry. You know, the funny thing is, it's like whenever someone sort of says that you've been nominated for an Emmy, it just feels like my body like kind of does a little weird thing. You know, I'm very excited to be here, and I love being an actor, and I love actors. And before I booked this job, and I don't talk about this a lot, but I was on a payment plan with my landlord to stay in my apartment. I was like majorly behind in my rent, and I didn't get caught up until it was 2012, and I didn't like. There was by like November, it was December actually, because it was after Hurricane Sandy. December of 2012, like the 1st, my rent was finally paid up for that year. Finally, for the first time in 2012, it was the 1st of the month, and that month's rent was paid. And then I paid my rent, like, you know, I made a little money from the show. I paid my rent 6 months in advance. So like, what's deep, what's really, and then like, then 6 months later, I was like, I was still working at a restaurant too. So I shot season 1. When I was shooting that, I was still working at a place called Lucky Chang's, which isn't open anymore. And so I kept the restaurant job. And so it's like, it's really intense for me to be sitting here, an Emmy nominee, you know, when so recently, you know, I was barely paying my rent. But I think, I wanted to say that here because I think actors kind of get that, right? This is the gig. This is the gig. So, hey.
Well, how did Orange is the New Black come to you? Did you get a breakdown? Did your agent bring it up to you?
I didn't get a breakdown. My agent did, though. My agent, Paul Halepa, who's here. Where's Paul? Say hi. My agent, make some noise for my agent, Paul. I'm feeling very, like, you know, familiar tonight, so I'm just going to be very, probably less formal than I usually am. But Paul, I've been working with for about 7 years, and I went through a period when I was not. I auditioned for many agents and casting directors and stuff, and many agents were like, "Oh, we don't know what to do with you, and maybe you should move to LA, and there's not really any work for you because you're trans," and all that stuff. And Paul saw something in me when I auditioned for him, and I actually kind of choked on the audition, actually. But he saw something in me, and he took a chance on me, and I'm really, really grateful for him. So make some noise for Paul again. So we got, actually, I was in an event in August of 2012 with Paul, and Paul was like, we have this new Netflix, you know, web series and there's a part for you. It's a prison hairstylist. Oh, prison. I was like, cool. And then, no, I was excited about playing. The funny thing is, I'd been doing research on a young woman named Cece McDonald, who, and many of you probably heard this before, maybe some of you haven't. This young woman named Cece McDonald, who is an African-American transgender woman who had been convicted earlier that year on second-degree murder when she actually was just defending herself, and she was serving her time in a men's prison. So I had actually been preparing to interview her for a show called In the Life that has since lost its funding. And so I had been doing a lot of prison research. So I was like, I said prison, cool, because I was in that sort of mindset. And my acting coach, Brad Calcaterra, says sometimes things just align, and Brad's here too. Make some noise for Brad. And so And so, when the audition came, it just sort of felt like it was lined up. And we went in and did the audition. I did a scene, the bathroom scene that you just saw from this episode, and then I did the one scene that Sophia has in episode 1, and it was just one audition, no callback. They cast me from the tape. How rare is that? And the stress of callbacks is like, oh my God. So I didn't have to deal with all that, and they just cast me, and here we are.
What were you doing when you got the call?
Well, I was on the street, actually. I remember I was in the street, and I don't know, I was walking somewhere. I was coming from doing somewhere on the street, and Paul called me, and he said, you booked the show, and I remember screaming and jumping up and down. And the funny thing is, I started, because of my acting coach, Brad Calcaterra, writing down things that I'm manifesting. 5 in the morning, 5 things I'm grateful for, and 5 things I'm manifesting. And having the previous year, in 2011, I did like 7 independent films, like only one has gotten distribution. We know how that goes. And I was like, okay, next year I haven't done TV in a while. Next year I want to have a recurring role in a TV show. And that was like on the list of things that I'd written at the beginning of 2012. And by like August, I hadn't worked at all. I hadn't had any acting jobs. I was still working at the restaurant, but no acting jobs in 2012. And I actually had thought about going to grad school. I'd gotten all the materials. I was like, okay, maybe I'm done. Maybe, I've had a great run as an actor. Maybe it's time to go to grad school. I'm getting a little bit older. I'm finally over 21. And maybe I should go to grad school. And so a friend of mine had just gone to grad school, and he had all these GRE materials, and he sold them to me at a discount. So I had all the GRE materials, and I was ready to study, and go to grad school, and then this job came along. And so we're not going to grad school right now.
But what would you have studied if you had gone to grad school?
Well, that's the question. I was really interested in I was really interested in journalism and women's and gender studies. I've been doing a lot of writing at the time, and so I think those are the 2 things I was interested in. I was trying to combine them. There's not. God, this is a digression, but I'm feeling very tangential tonight. A lot of grad schools, they women's studies programs, degrees are often PhD degrees and not just master's degrees. So I was like, do I really want to get a PhD in women's studies? Maybe.
You have time, you're just 22.
Right.
So when the entire cast got together for the first table read of the first episode of Orange is the New Black, what was that like?
There was no table read.
There was no table read?
We tried to schedule one, but it didn't happen because of scheduling. So there was actually no table read. So we arrived on set, not really, trying to figure out the tone of the show, trying to figure it all out. So there was no table read. So I got there the first day, and you said you wanted to ask about Jodie Foster, so I guess I'll tell you. Anyway, it's reading your mind, but my first day on set, I get there and I'm like, oh, what's the food like? So I go to Crafty, and so I'm at Crafty, and this woman comes up to me and she's like, hi, I'm Jodie, I'm directing episode 3, and I'm like, I know who you are, and I'm standing there why is Jodie Foster talking to me? And she's like, oh, it's your first day, right? Let me show you around. And then she commences to give me a tour of the set. And I'm walking, and I'm trying not to shake and be freaked out and stuff. And she's asking me questions about myself. Now, at the time, I had no idea that episode 3 would be Sophia's backstory episode. So I'm just dumbfounded. I'm showing up on this Netflix show to work one day on the first episode, and Jodie Foster's there. It's and so I get back to my dressing room, and I was shaking. I was a mess. And I call my brother. My brother's here, M. Lamar. Make some noise for my brother. And I called my brother, and I was like, I'm freaking out. I just met Jodie Foster. I'm shaking. I don't know if I can work now. And he's like, breathe. It's gonna be okay, focus. And I thought about, something my acting coach, Brad, would say, take all that energy and put it into the work. So you've had a teacher like that, you understand. So we got through it, and now I'm nominated for an Emmy.
So when did you realize that the third episode would be your big backstory episode?
We were actually shooting the second episode. I had one day on the second episode, and and Gingy was there, and she's like, we're doing your backstory in the next episode. I was like, oh, cool. And she said, we want to hire someone to play you pre-transition. And I was like, I was feeling very full of myself that day. I had a good day on set. I was like, who are you gonna get to play? Who else could play me? I have to do it, And she was like, well, we didn't want to re-traumatize you, which is pretty, it's real, it's legitimate. The interesting thing about that is grandiose as I was being in that moment, I was like, of course I can play, I'm an actor, And I had done a student film, probably in 2005, 2006, where I played a trans character who dresses up like a guy to steal a watch from someone. So I had to dress as a guy, and I hadn't done this for a very long time. And I remember I went out, I did it at home. I remember we had to do all kinds of stuff to, hide myself. And I remember going out into the street that day, and it was very traumatizing, actually. It was awful. And I remember when we were done with the scene, I just couldn't wait to get out of that boy drag. But the funny thing is, when I saw the film, it was actually because I had to be so specific about who this guy was. It was some of the best scenes in the film for me as an actor. Of course, I wanted to play pre-transition Sophia, but we know now, many of us know that my brother ended up playing pre-transition Sophia.
Was that your idea? Did you suggest it?
The funny thing is, when I was talking, I had met with Jodie a couple of times. This is the only way I think I was able to be directed by Jodie Foster and not go into a coma. Is that we got to? It was her first. It was her first TV show, so she's come from film. She wants to meet with the actors. I'm like, we can never do that in TV. So I got 2 meetings with Jodie. She was like, I got an email from production. I'm like, Jodie would like to meet with you on Monday. Are you available? And I'm like, no, I'm not available to meet with Jodie. I'm just too busy. Just too busy to accommodate a living legend film icon. Sorry, can't do it. So, yeah, I met with Jodie. I got 2 meetings with her beforehand, and I remember I actually mentioned my brother in the meeting, but I don't know if it went over. It didn't compute for whatever reason, and so So production was very nice. They were we charted. We saw this. We saw Sophia's sort of transition. So we did a hair and makeup day where we sort of did constructed those looks. And the last look of the day was an 8-hour day. Was the guide look, what Marcus would look like. And they sort of put facial hair on me and stuff, and a little, what are those do-rag things. And I was stretching, and then Jodie was at lunch, and I was like, okay, I gotta butch it up. I was like, I gotta play this, So I go to lunch, and I'm walking in, trying to be thugged out and stuff. And Jodie looks at me and she's like, we're going to have to hire somebody. And, it's not the first time in my life that I was told that I was not butch enough. And I think that's why we're here. So they started bringing in these very butch black men, and they were standing them next to me and photographing us together to find the right guy. And at one point I was like, why don't you hold an audition so you don't have to, because they were paying people to do this. Why don't you hold an audition? You have to pay people for that. And then they contacted my agent, Paul, and they were like, can we have a photo of Laverne for the breakdowns? And Paul was like, well, she has a twin brother, and Jen Houston, our brilliant Emmy-nominated casting director. Jen's not here, but make some noise for Jen. She's amazing. I think she should win the Emmy. Brilliant casting on our show. And she was like, I have to meet him. He auditioned and killed it, and the rest is history. That was a long story. We don't have all night. I'm sorry, Mark.
No, that was a good one.
Thank you. I tried.
Were you coaching your brother before the audition?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. He went and did his thing. He's a musician. He's a brilliant musician. mlamar.com. See, I'm plugging. He's a brilliant musician, but he also has a lot of stage presence, and he's been around theater and performance. He would come to my ballet classes. I was a dancer growing up. So he's been around all this his whole life. So he knows how to handle himself on stage and in front of a camera. So he did okay, did pretty well, right? Good. My brother never comes to this stuff. It's really cool that he's here. I'm like, it's really cool. Trace is here, Alicia's here. Hey. Okay. Mark.
Please, I mean, if there are any more shout-outs that we need to do.
Not that I'm aware. Oh, Seth is here. Where's Seth? Hey, Seth. Hey. Okay, we're good.
When you got the script for that third episode, what did you think when you finished reading it? Because this is not a typical trans character that we're used to seeing on TV.
I said, I laughed and I cried while I was reading it, and I said to myself, this is it. I said, this is it. I said, this is the script I've been waiting for. This is the moment I've been waiting for. He knows, my brother knows, because I talked to him about a lot of this stuff. It's like, this is the moment. I was like, this is the time that I can really show what I've been training to do and show what I got. And so I took it very seriously, and I prepared a lot, and I had a really good time doing it. I had the best time of my life shooting this episode.
Did that sense of this is what you've been waiting for, did that add pressure when it came time to film? Or did you use it?
It's weird. You know, in that moment, for whatever reason, I look back, and I don't think I felt the pressure. I just was in, because I think if I had known that this would be this runaway hit show, that there would have been pressure. I was like, I'm doing, and I was telling people, I remember telling my friend William, I was like, I'm doing this web series for Netflix. It's like, it's not a web series. It's a Netflix original series. And I was like, okay. And he was right. You know, this is like a different thing. But like, I think because I didn't know that this would be this runaway hit, that it was just about the work. It was just about me getting to have these great scenes with Tanya Wright and with Michael, who plays my son, and with Taylor and with all of the other actors, and working with Jodie Foster was just like, every time Jodie was like, oh, this is I would just be like, what is Jodie saying? You know, I just had I had the time of my life, you know. It was really one of those like moments that you dream about as an actor, that I've dreamed about, and I got to do it, and I'm. It's really cool that like, I think about this. It's really cool that like I finally got this opportunity that like you wait for your whole life, and I gave it my all, and I got nominated for an Emmy for it. That's like, it's really cool. Like, this is like, this is. You know, because sometimes, you know, when the chance comes, and I've had some opportunities in my life and my career, but sometimes we don't always like, we choke a little bit or we freak out. And I think because, and I have to be real, I may have if it were like a network show, you know, and I might have, but this one, it was just, I just got to be in the work, and I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful.
Well, and it's special for Netflix shows because you are filming all of them in one go before anything ever hits the air. What was it like on set before anybody outside of the set knew what Orange is the New Black was? What was the feeling among the actors?
We all knew that it was special, and a lot of us talk about. There was I think it was episode 6, the Whack Pack episode. Are there fans of Oranges who need to be there? That's the episode where we have the rap battle, you know, because there are elections. And so at one point, there's like probably 70, 80 women in like the common room. And unfortunately, some of the actors did not wear deodorant that day, which is unfortunate. I don't know who it was.
Their method.
Yeah, right? They were really committed to the circumstances of being in prison. But I remember looking around that day, and it was like, I've never seen anything like this on TV before. There were like 80 women in a room. I don't know if it was 80, but it felt like something like that. Like different shapes and sizes and races and ages. And I was like, this is really cool. I felt like it was really amazing and special. I remember saying to myself, I don't know if anybody's gonna go for this. I was like, who's gonna watch this show about women in prison, you know, with these women who are not like a size 2 and look like, you know, they should be on an episode of Gossip Girl. And but like people are obviously watching, and we're not shooting our third season now. So I realized, and I think a lot of us realized how special it was. I don't think we like anticipated that it would become the cultural phenomenon that the show has indeed become.
No, I remember watching it the weekend it premiered, and it was exactly what you were saying. It's like in The Wizard of Oz when she steps out into Oz and everything's in Technicolor, and you're seeing all of these different women on TV for the first time, and it's so shockingly refreshing.
It's deep. It's like it's really interesting because in the art form, I knew there's acting, and there's what we do as actors, and then there's like the showbiz part. And when acting is about like humanity, it's about like truth, right? In telling the truth. And so much of what we see on television isn't necessarily that, you know. And so what's interesting is that is shockingly refreshing to see something truthful. Yes. When this is really what we're here for.
Which is also shockingly depressing.
But there's orange, so there's hope.
That's right. What was your first indication that it had become a cultural phenomenon once the first season was released?
I mean, I couldn't walk down the street anymore without people. You know, people are watching when like every other block. You know, someone's like, "Oh my God, this is a girl from Orange Is the New Black. Oh my God, I love your show. Oh my," and then. When I think I had 2,000 Twitter followers when the show started, and then like, you know, I was adding at one point I was adding 10,000 a week.
Wow.
No, for real. I was adding 10,000. So from like when we premiered to like mid-September, maybe even the end of September, it's like 10,000 new Twitter followers a week. It stalled. I remember it stalled at like, you know, around 40,000 for a while, and then it like jumped. But like now I have like over 200,000 Twitter followers, which still isn't like, I'm not Justin Bieber, you know. But like from 2,000 to 200,000 is not bad in a year. And so that was sort of, it became an indication to the social media following. And then on social media too, our fans are so excited about the show. So there are all these memes and all these GIFs. Is it GIFs or GIFs? Is it GIFs? GIFs. I like saying GIFs, but a lot of folks say GIFs. So these GIFs and all these memes and all these other fan art being constructed as well. So it's like something is going on here, and so you know, pretty early on, and then I was all of a sudden getting all these media requests, and just things changed very quickly. Quickly.
When did you realize that you were becoming kind of the spokesperson for trans people?
Time magazine kind of really solidified some stuff. But before that, I think it really, because the funny thing for me is that like I've been doing mainstream media probably since 2008. I was on a reality show actually. I claim and I own that history. And so I was, you know, had some forays into mainstream media back then, and I decided at the time through a conversation with my brother actually that I was like, well, I'm very political, and like I'm already a black transgender woman. That's a lot for people. Should I talk about you know the issues that are important to me? And he said to me, if you have a public platform, what's the point? Unless you use it for something that's meaningful. And I said, yeah, that's true. And so that's really what I've been doing. So I would do my media stuff, and I would talk about things that were important to me, and try to shift the conversation where I thought it should go. And I think when after the Katie Couric interview happened, I think that was a turning point in terms of the way in which people talked about me and the way in which people talked about trans issues. That was a moment that felt like a major shift when the Katie Couric interview happened.
Is it going to be hard to find roles that will measure up to Sophia? Or can you not let that blinker you?
I try not to think about that. I'm actually so busy now. I'm like, what am I doing today? So I'm not. I think about that, but I also like there's stuff happening, and I think what I've come to believe is that we can manifest our own destiny and our own fate, and that right? And that we can put the energy out into the world the way we want it. And it might take a while. It's taken me a while to have this moment. I think it's, I don't talk about this a lot because I'm very cagey about my age and stuff. Obviously, I'm over 21. But like, I actually, being over 21, I moved to New York 21 years ago. And I was a dance major, right? When I was born. I moved here. And I was a dance major at Marymount Manhattan College, and I started to transition into acting then. And I did my first movie when I was in college. And so I've been doing this for a very long time, and just training very seriously, and going to auditions, and being rejected, which is what we all do. But I haven't given up. I was thinking about going to grad school, but I still went to the audition. So. So it takes a while. So I'm starting to believe now, based on evidence, that I can, if I work really, really hard and continue to manifest what I want in the world for myself, that it can happen. And so I believe that there are more roles just as interesting, just as complicated and nuanced as Sophia. Right around the corner. But we're still doing Sophia. Sophia is we're shooting season 3 right now, so she's not done yet. Which has been what's been really great is that I have 3 seasons with this character. This is the longest I've spent outside of an acting class. The longest I've spent with the character. So it's been really great to live with her and find new shades and colors and have her continue to live.
When it came to season 2, did they let you know about Sophia's arc earlier than it happened in season 1, when you were finding out the episode?
No. They don't tell me anything. I mean, maybe they tell series regulars what's going on. I have no idea. And so, but what's great is that we have, Genji Cohen is just a genius, and all of our writers are so smart that I trust them, and I trust the vision. And there's so many amazing characters on the show, and there's so many backstories to get to, and there's so many things, there's, I almost gave something away for season 3. But there's so many wonderful stories to tell. Excuse me. There's so many wonderful stories to tell from so many different characters that I'm so happy to be on this ride with this show that's nominated for 12 Emmys. That people are really connecting with, and that's also a show that's really and truly changing the world. I've gotten the chance to do this really intense college lecture tour last year that I'm continuing in September, where I got to meet college students from all over the country who said that, trans kids who said that they're, now when they talk about their identities as trans people, they have an affirming point of reference in pop culture. This kid, and the first person, I've heard this many times at this point, but the first kid I met, this young trans guy in Vanderbilt University, said that now when I tell people I'm trans, they're like, oh, like Sophia from Orange is the New Black. And there's no more conversation, and they just can move on. It's not like, well, what does that mean? Oh, that's weird, and whatever, like it would have been before. And he's felt that there has been a shift now because of the show. I've heard trans folks have come out as trans and have started to transition now because of this character. And folks who are not trans have written blogs and said that now they understand trans people better because of this character. And I think at the end of the day, it's not like a PSA for trans, trans people are very discriminated against. It's not that. It's just this really human, nuanced, complicated chick who people can relate to, and it happens to be played by someone who's actually trans. And I think that's when because people always ask me, should trans people play, trans actors play trans roles? I think the difference is with that is, I think actors, we all want to play everything, right? And I think actors should have the opportunity to play whatever our hearts desire. But I think the difference is for audiences, that the audiences are not only connecting with this trans character, they're connecting with the trans character that's actually played by a trans actor. So then it's like a different kind of connection that they're finding unexpectedly. I think a lot of folks are surprised that they're connecting to me. So that makes social change. This little art of acting can actually change the world. Go fig leaf.
Did you have a
Oh my God, I'm sorry. I'm looking at Jamie, and Jamie's like, my publicist is here. These are the long answers we can't do on live TV. I bet that's what Jamie's thinking right now. Because you have to be soundbitey when you're on TV, and so you can't like be, it's, long-winded as I am in real life.
I like it. Did you have much input in how Sophia was written in the first season? Do you have more input now?
No. No, I think what I did an interview with Gingy last week, and Gingy says that our voices are in their heads now. So like the writers, like after a while, they get a sense of how the actors sound, and she says like they'll have our voices in their heads now. So now they write based on like knowing us. So no.
And I wanted to go back.
I'm just an actor on this one. Just an actor.
And are you still in acting class? Are you still training? Emmy-nominated and all?
I wasn't in class this week, but I was in class last week, right? So yes, I'm still going to class, and still there's so much to learn. And what's really, I saw Mice and Men last night, and it was such a beautiful production. I was just like, oh my God, I haven't done a play in a while, and there's just so much to learn. There's so much more to learn, and so much more that I want to do as an artist. And I have a very busy schedule now, but it's important for me to keep growing. I think that's really what it's all about. It's getting better at what you do.
What's the one thing you use most from your training on set?
One? Oh, gosh.
Well, what's the thing you never use from your training on the set?
I think what actually tends to work for me more than anything else, when the anxiety comes up, is that sort of Meisner thing of putting everything on the other person. And I do that when I do college lectures. I do that. I'm not doing that much tonight because I'm feeling very self-indulgent tonight. But the thing of taking all the energy off myself and putting it on the other person, it really helps me with nerves. Really helps me when I get like sort of caught up in my own stuff or overly obsessed with like what's going on with the character. That really it's something that it's about being in action, and it's about connecting. And so when I put all the energy on the other person too, then it helps me connect. And so I take it all off me. I think that piece, thank you, Brad, that piece has completely made the difference for me with the work. And that is something I find myself constantly reminding myself of. But there's just so many things to think about when you're an actor, and ideally in the moment not think about, so that you're in, you do the prep, and in the moment, you live. But I would say that was the biggest one.
Is it difficult doing the prep and making the choices in fast-paced TV when you don't know what the next script is going to bring?
Well, we make choices with what we have in front of us.
Right.
So I make the choices based on the script that I have there, and and I prepare. And then what's wonderful about this, a lot of TV shows have different directors. Having different directors, so different directors bring different energy, and so being prepared to work with different directors and take notes and take adjustments from different directors has been huge too. So that I don't get too married to my prep. That my prep allows me to be in the moment and maybe need to change it all up.
Yeah.
In the moment.
They can't all be Jodie Foster.
But we have amazing directors on our show. Andrew McCarthy, Michael, Michael, Gus. I can't even name all the directors. We have a lot of. Every director is different. Jodie's the name, I guess. But they all bring something amazing to the table, and there's something to learn from every director.
When you have a different director every week, do you ever find yourself having to not defend the character, but step up for her a little bit in terms of what they're asking you to do?
That hasn't been my experience. And I've seen some other actors on the show have had, I don't want to say issues, but have had some of those moments. I don't know, maybe because of my training, and I started as a dancer, and I like make it work. A lot of my work with Brad. I'm so glad he's here tonight, because I had a feeling I'd be talking a lot about you. So it's good to have people in the room where you're talking about them, so it's not you're not talking about them behind their backs. A lot of my work, although it's all good and positive, a lot of my work with Brad has been about being directed and not taking, can I quote you? He says that an adjustment is not a judgment.
Yeah.
That's good, right? That's good. An adjustment is not a judgment. So I'm such a dork. So that like my work really is to interpret, because sometimes different directors will give you notes that are kind of weird, where it's like, what exactly? And so my job as an actor is to try to figure out how to translate that note. I mean, usually I get it. A few times I'm like, I don't understand what you're talking about, and I ask for explanation. But my job really is not to question. My job is to make it work. Yeah. My job is to take what I believe is the truth about this moment in the character and marry that. I always see building a character and building a scene as a collaboration. It's a collaboration between me and the other actors and the director. Sometimes the cinematographer. I mean, it's a costume person, depending on what. It's all film and TV. It's a collaborative thing, and I actually love that. I love feeding off of the energy of other folks on set, and I love getting a note from a director that there was this scene in season 2. And I always forget her name, one of our directors. We have so many directors. And she gave me this amazing note that like totally changed the way I viewed this endless little monologue, viewed the moment I had. And it was one of those things that I live for, because it just all happened in the moment in a way that I didn't expect. Yeah. So it's like, for me, the best thing is to be in the moment, and maybe the other actor in the scene or actors in the scene do something that I didn't expect, and then like all of a sudden I'm doing something different, or the director says something, and it's like completely different than I thought it would be, and that's the good stuff. So I think the work for me as an actor is not to fight with directors. It's I think. Luckily, I think we have brilliant directors on the show. There's obviously some situations where there might not be as skilled a director that you might need to, have a moment with. But that's not the case on our show.
And you trained as a dancer originally. Do you still carry some of that training into your work as an actor?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's weird because on camera, the physical life, for the way the character moves in the physical life is, it has to be in a box, and there's like close-ups and stuff. But yeah, so I find it's weird because sometimes I'll find the character in a stance, or with Orange. A lot of times I don't feel like I'm Sophia until I have those boots on. That the boots, the prison boots really like get me in prison. And you walk a certain way with those boots on, and it like I get blisters from them, and they're heavy, and so the physical piece is really important to me with constructing character. But it's the voice, it's a lot of things, but the connecting physically is actually still really important to me. That I'm connected to my body. It's different on film than it is. It's even more important, I think, on stage for me. But it's still important on film. So yeah, the dance training has. I think I maybe have an awareness of my body because of all that training, and it was a lot of training. It was classical ballet mostly, but jazz and modern and all that stuff. So I think that gave me this awareness, and then it also put me on stage very early too, so that when I am in moments, I'm like, it doesn't. I've been doing this since I was 8 years old, and I'm now just 22.
What prompted you to transition over from dancing to acting?
I'm writing a book now, and so my editor's like, "Don't tell too many stories. Save them for the book." So I'm like, but then obviously I'm a talker. I want to like tell you everything. When I was at Marymount, I went to Marymount Manhattan College for college. I did 2 years at Indiana University, and then I transferred to Marymount, and I was a dance major there. But my first week at Marymount, a guest teacher by the name of Daniel Banks saw me in the hall and said, "You'd be perfect for this play that I'm doing." And I didn't know at the time that you're supposed to get permission from the dance department to do things outside the department. And I was like, "Cool, I want to do a play." And The play was Max Frisch's Andorra, and I didn't have any lines. I played the village idiot, and I grinned and nodded. That's what I did. And the character is sort of a mirror of the lead character in the play. And I hate saying this, but I stole the show. Like, everyone was sort of talking about my performance because there was this, maybe it's because I was a dancer and like I learned how to sort of be on stage and make an impact without words. And it was Daniel was amazing, and it was a really transformative experience for me. And I ended up going and taking acting classes in the theater department. I did a number of productions in the theater department. And also at the time too, by the time I had gotten to Marymount, I was sort of burnt out on dance. I loved dancing, but it was so gendered. And I'm trans and stuff. So I was at that point where I was just really not into like performing this masculine thing, and I was never really good at it either. So there was this desire to make me, into this sort of, danseur, this sort of prince who would like, and I'm just like, it just didn't feel right. So it was just feeling really oppressive with the gender stuff. And I was there on scholarship. I had a dance scholarship, but I had an academic scholarship as well. Okay. So I was required to do, this stuff in the dance department. It just felt really oppressive, and acting just felt freer at the time. And I remember I was at Marymount, and again, my brother saw me. Had done one of these student productions where I did this interpretive sort of modern dance, and I recited a poem afterwards. And he happened to be in town. I don't know why you were here in New York. Yeah, you were at Yale at the time. Maybe you'd just come down. Maybe you'd come down for the weekend or whatever. And he saw this show. He was like, "You can act." And he'd see me dancing in my whole life, so you can really act. This is what you should be doing. And for many, many years, he encouraged me. And it wasn't until after I graduated that I did my first movie in college, so I was acting in college, but then I didn't really get serious until after I graduated. And I'd done an independent film, and this girl that I worked with, I used to wait tables at a place called Coffee Shop in Union Square, not far from here. And a girl, Candace, that I was working with, said, "I'm studying with this acting coach named Susan Batson, and you should come check her out." And I went to her class, and I was like, this is really cool. And that's when I really got serious. And I studied with Susan for about 5 years. And that was intense. I was a fill-in teacher at Susan's studio as well. At one point, Susan was like, you understand the work, and I'd like you to teach. And so I taught there as well. Thank you for reminding me of that.
What is teaching acting like?
It's been a while, I have to say. This was like, oh my God, this was probably like over a decade ago or so. I haven't taught in a while. I guess I'm teaching in my own ways now. But teaching acting is intense, and I was teaching her process. She has a class called Actor, where it's called exercising your actor, and it's a drop-in class that she still does. And it's really intense, and a lot of her process is based in sense memory. So it was really, relaying the way she approached the process of acting. And it was a really intense process. I actually really loved it, I have to say. And I have a degree in dance, actually. And I was like, I could technically teach dance, but I've never wanted to teach dance. But teaching acting, I think, is really cool because a lot of it is about getting to the truth of who a human being is. At the end of the day, like, you're trying to get to the core of who someone is. That really is the work, and so much of her process is about the unfulfilled need. Her book Truth is amazing. Like, you should check if you care. Susan Batson wrote this great book called Truth that sort of, she goes into depth about her process. But the whole thing of the unfulfilled need, I think, is really interesting, that we all as human beings have an unfulfilled need that starts around the age of 5 years old. And so for her, the work as an actor that is really at the highest level in every moment in the play or in the film or TV show, the need of the character, the unfulfilled need, is infused in every moment. In every moment of the character. So even when they're in their tragic flaw, even when they're in their objective, the need is still layered in there. And it's hard. It's really hard. And a lot of it is really hard because there's she was really interested in us going. She would always, there's this, actually, what's funny is she is in the Spike Lee film Girl 6, and oh God, I won't tell the story about how she ended up in the film, but she plays an acting coach in the film, and she's about 5 foot tall, and she's this beautiful black woman. It's like, this sort of messy long bob. And she's like, where's the bottom? Where's the bottom? I need a bottom! And it's not like, it's not about being in Chelsea looking for a bottom. What Susan meant was that where's the need? Where is that unfulfilled need where we understand the core? Sorry. Oh my gosh, I love my gays. It's about that unfulfilled need being infused in every single moment. What is the core of the character? And it's training that is really, I obviously carry it with me to this day, and I love. And Brad and Susan have been these two pivotal teachers in my life that my work with them has changed me as an artist. So I'm really grateful for my years with Susan.
And then since we have a room full of actors here, how does all of this training help you prepare for auditions?
That's a whole other thing. The funny thing about, we all know this, that the work that we do in class, Brad is actually really good at addressing the audition process, and Susan as well, but there's the work of like, auditioning is not what you do when you're on set. It's a completely, there's like a reader maybe that you're reading with who sometimes, you can really use, and then sometimes you can't. And it's a very sort of artificial environment, and there's the nerves, and it's like a lot of what Brad has been really great with me was just. But it's a different skill set. I think most of us understand that being on set and working as an actor is a really different skill set than going in and auditioning. And there's a specific set of skills that you need. And it's funny because for a while before I met Susan, I thought, I can act, but you need that skill set. You need to be able to work with someone who can prepare you to go in and do that because it's very specific. So. You train specifically to audition, and then when you get the job, then hopefully you'll continue to train to create the walking, talking human being, as Susan Batson would say.
So when you go in for an audition, what do you do? Do you have any superstitions, any rituals? One actor once said that he used to hide in bathrooms, and he had the casting associate come get him when it was his turn because he didn't want to hear anybody else read. Oh God, that's intense. Whatever works for you. I think it's about figuring out what works for you. And every situation's different. It's weird auditioning now that I've been on this show that people love. So I walk into audition rooms and casting directors and directors are fans of my work. So they're like, first of all, I have to say I love you in orange. And I'm like, it's just weird. It's like it shifts the. It shifts the energy in the room a lot. I turn off my phone. I try not to do any. I like to not do anything before the audition, so that the audition is the first thing I do, even if it's at 4:00. That I've been preparing beforehand that day. So all of the material and the circumstances that is what is at front of mind for me. It's just for me. It's about focus and ideally about. Letting everything else in the world go, but the moments in the script. What's been challenging for me is I'm doing so many other things now to have that level of sort of focus and commitment to the work as an actor while I have all these other things going on, and all the other things are part of the business too, but it's not the work of being an actor. This the show business part that we got to do too, and then we don't have to. We have time for one last question, and then we have to leave.
Okay. Oh, so we didn't get the questions from the audience? I'm long-winded. See, this is what happens.
No, it's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay.
No
They knew the
judgment.
score. They knew the score coming in.
They knew Laverne
It's
was like
okay.
going to talk a lot.
So, talking about auditions, what is your worst audition story?
Oh, God. Do I have to? What? Tell us name. Oh, no, we never name names. This is the thing. You don't last long in this business naming names. Oh, gosh, my worst audition experience. There was a moment when I was, oh, God, I don't think I can tell this. Well, Mr. Calcaterra says, say the first thing that comes to your mind. So the first thing that came to my mind, oh God. I was still in college, actually, and I was working with this agency that at the time was working with sort of people who were club personalities and alternative talent, like gender nonconforming and drag performers and whatever. When I was in college, so they sent me out for this play. I remember I was very young. I was very, very young. And I really didn't understand how things work, but I remember I asked during the audition how much the job paid. And I remember them looking at me like I was insane from like another planet or something. And I just remember going in very sort of arrogantly and very, with no respect. And it was really, and in a way I was so young and I understand now. It was just very disrespectful to the process and to the work that was going on. And yeah, it's embarrassing. It's really embarrassing that happened. But I think that was, and at the end of the day, the work wasn't good. You know, the work that I had done that day wasn't good. And so, yeah, I think I was, you know, I'll be writing about this in the book. But when I was younger, I was very, very defensive because I was in a lot of pain that I had not yet dealt with. I had not found my bottom. So wow. Susan, I'm sorry. So I was in a lot of pain that I wasn't dealing with, and it came out in this way that was really unfortunate in the audition room. And I think so much of my work and training as an actor has been about dealing with that, so that I can use it in the work, and so it does not take me out of the work. So that is the work, dealing with your shit.
But how much did that job pay?
They just looked at me like it's crazy, and just it was like a next kind of thing. It was, yeah. Oh, yeah, that was bad.
Well, thank you so much for coming and sitting and talking to all of us today. This has been fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you for all coming out today. Thank you so much. Have a great night.